I am well aware that when you are posting videos on YouTube, you often get a face palm when you see, face like this, full of emotions on the thumbnail. But it was literally my face when I tallied up my, 2021 returns for my portfolio. So, as you can see from the thumbnail, I managed to average 46% year over year compared to 27% that did the S&P 500, which of course is a amazing result and something that we all hope to strive for, ideally year over year. It's not always easy, but it's definitely possible, right? So let's take a little deeper look, and I will show you 3 stocks that helped me massively to achieve that. Let's get to it. My name is Andrei. I'm managing director for the Financial Fortress, network of dedicated investors that are trying to achieve an amazing results, such as this one. And you know, just to give you a little bit glimpse, in 2021, we actually had 138 people who crossed the 6-figure mark, which is obviously amazing, and I'm proud of every single one of them, because obviously it takes effort, it takes dedication, you need some consistency to get that, but it's possible. Let's take a look how I did in 2021, because obviously if I could do it, you can do it too. So let's go. As you can see, and if you've seen some of my videos, about Monday mindset, looking into the goal setting, I'm freak considering like the Excel spreadsheet, goal setting, tracking your progress and everything like that. So obviously here you can see a little bit of glimpse how I personally track my portfolio, right? Obviously, I have my own app where I can see everything, but every single month on the first of the month, I sit down, I look at the portfolio, I write down the numbers. If I'm up, down on the month, compare where I want to be, a little bit reevaluate. And these are the results, right? So if you can see a little bit on the graph, right? The red line, that's my portfolio, and the green line is S&P 500. So obviously, as you can see, S&P 500 is, steadily rising. We've been in the bull market for I would basically say since 2008, obviously with some kind of minor hiccups, crashes in between. Obviously, there was the 2020 Rona big crash, uh, which was an amazing time to be in the market, which of course I will maybe a little bit talk about it later. But 2021 concerning market, it was time of the big tech, almost I would say. But we'll touch upon that later as well. And as you can see, my portfolio at the beginning didn't really perform that well in the first, two quarters basically. But in the stock market, everything can go, can change super quickly. And towards the last quarter, basically my portfolio pushed up, because obviously I'm having quite a concentrated portfolio, heavy on tech, and that can change really quickly. And actually, basically all of these 3 companies are companies that are either technology related or are heavily using technology. um, so yeah, let's get to the first one. The first of the stocks that really helped me to push my portfolio to great heights in 2021 was Revolve Group, RVLV. If you've never heard about the company, let me just give you a brief introduction. They are basically an e-commerce player, right? They are selling clothes, mostly for women, but also for men as well, right? Dresses, shoes, beauty and accessories. And what they obviously did, and what's so enticing for me, is that it's a growth story, right? And I loved growth stories. They are growing like crazy, both top line and bottom line, and they are really good at marketing, right? And these days marketing is everything. Social media, now obviously you are watching this video on YouTube, and RVLV, they were great at using influencers. And I was able to pick that company up actually that wasn't during the last year, right? Because obviously we are long-term investors, and I started the position in RVLV somewhere around roughly here, around the summer 2020, right? So that was one of the scary moments in the market, right? It wasn't during that really bottom of that crash, but it was during these uncertain times, 2020 summer. And why I'm telling you all this, right? It's mainly to show you the power of a long-term investing, right? Because all these three stocks that I'm showing you today are not the ones that I bought during 2021, right? It was those that has been with me for quite a number of years. For RVLV, it was basically now almost 2 years. And I had a great success with this one. But again, it took time to get where they are. And you have to understand this if you're a long-term investor, right? It can sometimes it can sometimes take a lot of time for your picks to play out. So whatever companies I've chosen in 2020, I'm not beating myself up if they are not performing, because it's most likely just a temporary hiccup, right? Market can be pretty vicious in the short term, but of course, if you are choosing right companies that are growing and just getting better as a businesses, you'll do just fine in the long term. And obviously RVLV is one of the prime examples. Obviously, if we look only or on like the 2021 chart, we can see that at the very height they were at $86. They've pulled out a lot because I would say they've a little bit, run a little bit ahead of themselves. The valuation seems a little stretched, but not as much, right? Obviously, I'm still definitely holding my position and planning to hold it at least until the foreseeable future, right? Because obviously the growth is still there, the business is running on all four cylinders. So still holding, love it. And obviously in 2021, roughly 60% up. I mean, who can complain? Let's move to the next one. Good old Apple. Roughly 30% up in the last year. Obviously, amazing company, amazing product. I've been using Apple since probably I would say 2012 ish. The first iPhone I had was iPhone 4, and since then I really love the company. And that again brings me to the same principle I've talked about before, right? Because I've been an Apple shareholder a long time. If I remember correctly, I bought first because Apple was basically the first company I have ever bought in. Um, and it was somewhere in the late 2017 when I started investing. At that point, I knew basically nothing about investing, about valuations, but obviously I knew the product, right? And that's the first step to be a successful investor, right? Understand the company, understand their customers, and understand where they are heading. And I would almost argue that I understood that point relatively well, right? So in a sense, it didn't matter if at that point Apple was overvalued, undervalued, to what extent. Um, because of course, if you are not fully if you do not if you cannot do valuations to a very high level, you can still do relatively well as long as you are a long-term investor, right? But of course, if you want to step it up a little bit, then you need to do a little more work and understand what influences the price, right? Because obviously it's kind of in the eye of the beholder. And that's actually point why you can check some of the recent videos. I will probably link it somewhere here, because I've actually sold a small part of my Apple position and rotated it into some of the stocks that I think might have much brighter future ahead of themselves. Not that Apple is kind of falling out of favor, but it is at least in my opinion, a little bit undervalued, right? The P ratio is getting little elevated compared to the historical values. But again in 2021, if we kind of a little bit zoom in and think a little bit about the performance, 33% up, that obviously pushed my portfolio very nicely. And that of course brings a question, right? Always, whatever is happening in the market, try to understand what's the reasoning behind it, right? Because it can basically, you can build out your mental library of kind of the use cases. And in 2021, we were actually talking about it inside the Financial Fortress with some of the seven-figure coaches. And in 2021, it was especially in the second quarter for most of the big money players, hedge fund, mutual funds. It was a little bit like risk off type of environment when they are basically using Apple as a piggy bank, right? They just park the money there. They know that it's relatively safe, that they will get some nice returns, but they were not really rushing into any growth stories because of, kind of lots of uncertainty when we are kind of, going out of this environment after the first Rona crash, where obviously the Fed kind of pumped a lot of money into the economy. And now it's time to a little bit, pump the brakes, and the market is, kind of questioning uh, how fast is Fed going to do this, right? And obviously, market hates uncertainty. Because if you are a big hedge fund manager, big mutual fund manager, you are there to please your clients kind of year in and year out. In most cases, you want to show them that you've earned a decent amount of money year over year, but you are not swinging for the fences, right? Because at the same time, you are afraid of a potential downturn. If you are a retail investor, you have a little more flexibility. You have no one to answer to. And if, 1 year you're down 20%, I mean, let's imagine in 2022, let's say my portfolio goes down 20%. Well, that might as well happen. But of course, then might be the next year when I'm suddenly up 60%, right? I can stomach some of the volatility because of my long-term horizon and because I'm not answering to anyone. So that's my Apple story, and let's move to the stock number 3. And ultimately, obviously, Tesla Maesla. Uh, I'll be completely honest with you guys, right? Tesla is the biggest position in my portfolio by a wide margin, which obviously, here on YouTube, like everybody's talking about Tesla, so I'm not really going to spend that much time of it because there are obviously so many channels that are providing exquisite information about it. And so you can just simply go there. But I would like to a little bit share what was my personal take, and again just reinforce the point I'm making, because Tesla was the second stock I bought, and that was back in 2018 19. I was buying heavily at this, like between roughly these 2 days. I was accumulating a lot of Tesla. I love the company at this point, and I still love it. I've never sold a single share since then. And here, maybe I would like to talk about another lesson that I've learned over those, little over 4 years I've been investing, and that's learn who to listen to. Because obviously, at that point I still had a lot to learn about stock market, and I still do. There is always a more you can learn, but of course, over those 4 years I get so much confidence in my own abilities, obviously, because especially inside the Financial Fortress, right, we are having lots of bright individuals that have multi decades of experience in the market, multiple seven figures portfolio. And at that point, between 2018, 19, when I was accumulating Tesla shares, I was just, consuming a lot of content from lots of those other financial YouTubers, or, people like Galileo from Hyperchange, right, who were doing these really deep dives into Tesla, into their technology. So I was really consuming lots of those materials and just seeing how the company is performing. I was looking into the research of obviously Katie Wood from ARK Invest, because at this point it was a little bit this like bulls versus bears, this like very fierce battle. uh, and bears were kind of shouting lots of accusations, but when I was listening to some of those interviews, there was very little substance behind the claims they were making. And then I stumbled upon Katie Wood, and she was basically speaking about Tesla very intelligently. And then I actually opened her own valuation model, right? That she has in Excel spread that she's published in Excel spreadsheet with lots of those different scenarios based on what Tesla can achieve, right? Because it's obviously not just cars, it's an energy, it's a full self-driving. And she had this very complicated Monte Carlo simulation, right, which is kind of dealing with the probabilities. And I've suddenly seen that there is someone who is looking into the valuations on like super high level, and I understood a relatively good amount of what she's kind of trying to convey through those valuations, which basically reinforce all the information I got from the other sources. And that basically allowed me to have enough confidence to put a very significant portion of my portfolio into Tesla, right? And obviously it was, growing tremendously since then. So, basically over the past basically past 2 years, my only goal was just hold the whatever shares of Tesla I have, and then look for the next one, right? Because obviously if you want to have a kind of a fully well-rounded portfolio, you if you want, you can rely on one company. Uh, Obviously, I almost cannot speak against you if your whole portfolio is just Tesla. But also for the sake of my own knowledge, I just wanted to look into more companies, more stories, because obviously there is so many that you can invest in, and lots of them are great companies with great stories. And if you can find those that are undervalued at the same time, well, then that's amazing. Okay, so that was 2021 for me, and obviously I'm super grateful to be able to work with some of the people that are really on top of their game and be part of this whole community, right? Or on YouTube and otherwise inside Financial Fortress, who are producing a great research, looking into an amazing companies. And if you would like to join us inside Financial Fortress, there is a link in the description. And let me know in the comments if you would like me to maybe do a breakdown of my whole portfolio, because there is always something to look into. There are definitely companies that I am very interested in how they will kind of develop over the next couple of years, right? Because obviously, if you are long-term investors, the game is always finding the next one. And as I'm usually saying, right, as a long-term retail investor, you need maybe like 2, 3 great ideas per year, and you'll do just fine. So if you are, investing in the stock market, definitely stick with it. It can produce an amazing results in the long term, but of course, it needs dedication, it needs the patience, and you need to have some very good people around you who can support you in your research. So thank you so much, and take care.